Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Salvage Salvation, starring Robert De Niro, Jack Houston, and John Malkovich. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 10, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Robert De Niro as a Southern sheriff. I'm not really buying that part of it, but this movie looks pretty good. He's the sheriff. This is John Huston and his girlfriend. They're all friends until his girlfriend, a recovering addict, gets a hit of, I don't know, a meth-laced joint or something, or something. She ODs. She ODs. And this is John Malkovich as the preacher who there's one shot of him throwing a punch, so I think he gets some action as well. Anyhow, after his wife and or girlfriend dies, John Huston goes on a rampage to kill all the meth dealers. So one by one he hunts them down, goes up the chain as Robert De Niro is trying to catch up to him, trying to stop him, and he's just torturing and murdering heroin dealers wherever he can find them. And it looks like a standard actioner, but a little different in that you're gonna have this guy who he has a nail gun, by the way. That's like his weapon. He uses a nail gun. Plus, he had some guns too. And he just tortures these guys. He's just going up the chain, killing guys, looking for the guy, I guess, who killed his woman. And John Malkovich is kind of torn in between. Obviously, Robert De Niro is trying to stop him. And the question is, will he be stopped or will he get his revenge? Here's John Malkovich throwing the punch. I'll play it. All right, there he is. And, oh, no, that wasn't it. So what? There's a shot of him throwing a punch. I'll just play a little more. There he is. There it is. See, he's throwing a punch. So, obviously, Malkovich gets into it. It's called Savage Salvation. In theaters December 2nd, because that's a Christmas movie. Oh, hey, family, let's go see Savage Salvation. It's kind of a hard name to say. I will say that. Savage Salvation. Little tough to say. Rated R for, I assume, violence. I don't think there'll be many boobies in it. See it in theaters, see it in digital. So I guess it'll go right to streaming at the same time. That's a shame because I think this movie potentially could have some legs. Here's the love interest, but she'll be dead in the first act, I'm sure. You know, back in the day, back in the 90s, a movie like this would come out, be in theaters for a few weeks, do okay, and then boom, it would end up on video or DVD or whatever. Yeah, now I don't think there'll be a tremendous amount of production value to go see it in theaters. There'll be some. I mean, there's some action in it, obviously, but it's all going to be inside. There's not going to be any sweeping vistas or anything like that. For a Robert De Niro and John Malkovich movie, this is pretty low budget. These guys were in the biggest movies they ever made, basically, and now they're in this. But they're both older, so this is the kind of movies they appear in. John Malkovich and De Niro, more so Malkovich, I think, than De Niro in this. De Niro has some scenes where he might have a little action because he's a cop, whereas Malkovich, he's a pastor or preacher or something, and he's just going to have a lot of scenes around the table with the family and maybe a preacher scene and then maybe that one punch scene. So he might even be killed. Let's see what it says on the synopsis here. Sheriff Church, Robert De Niro, and Detective Zeppelin. What names? Church is a name. Zeppelin's not a name, in my view. Strive to keep the peace in their rough town, where residents' only two interests are the church or oxycodone. Oh, excuse me, I got the hiccups. Newly engaged Shelby John, Jack Houston, and Ruby Red want a fresh start. They decide to have a family together and get clean. Oh, they both got clean. With the support of Peter, Ruby's brother-in-law, John Malkovich. Okay, so now you have the connection there. However, Shelby discovers that his beloved Ruby dead on their porch before she could fulfill her final wish to be baptized in the river and washed away from her past sins. Filled with fiery rage, Shelby embarks on a vengeful killing spree, yay, to right all the wrong, yay, done to Ruby by every link in the drug-dealing chain. Armed with nothing but adrenaline and a nail gun, awesome, Shelby picks off dealers and junkies one by one until he gets to the top. Sheriff Church and Detective Zeppelin must race against the clock to put an end to Shelby's vigilante justice before his fight with the crime lord Coyote turn the entire town into a bloodbath. Sounds like he already runs the town, but Savage Salvation is in theaters, on digital, and on demand December 2nd, 2022. Is directed by Randall Emmett from a screenplay by Adam Taylor Barker and Chris Syverson. It sounds solid. Sounds like a solid premise. First act, you're going to have everybody established. Ruby and Shelby, they're going to get married, and they have family dinner with Malkovich, her brother. Is that who he is? The brother or brother-in-law? Who's a pastor? Yeah. Newly engaged Shelby, a brother-in-law. Brother-in-law. Okay. So that's how they explain why they don't look anything alike. So they go to her brother-in-law. Brother-in-law's like, he's a pastor. He's got some money, and they're two junkies getting their act clean. And finally they have, and they found religion and hope and all these good things. But it's dashed when Ruby falls off the wagon and gets a bad envelope of meth or whatever and dies. So the first act acts all the way up till that, right? Maybe see a little bit of Sheriff Church. I'm Robert De Niro. Look at my accent. I'm Robert De Niro. You might see him bust a meth house or crack house or whatever. In the second act, Shelby gets his nail gun and goes hunting. And then the whole second act is Shelby going from right up the chain of dealers. Who sold you? I need to know. I'm going to kill him. Blah, 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 blah. So he's torturing and killing people left and right. Robert De Niro is 4 steps behind, then 3 steps behind, then 2 steps behind, then 1 step behind. Then eventually he figures out where he's going to, his final target. And then the climax at the end of the second act is going to be this big confrontation where Shelby and the sheriff maybe have a face-off or a discussion, and he's trying to say, no, Shelby, you're going down a bad path. And he's like, no, Coyote must be stopped. Or, as they call him on The Simpsons, Mendoza. And then, so he confronts the Coyote, and then it's about, can the sheriff save him? I think by that point, he's already killed a bunch of people. So he can't really save him. I mean, he could overlook his crimes. But, I don't really buy the whole idea. Well, if he stops him before he kills Coyote, well, then Coyote will be fine, and then everything will go back to normal. No, if you've murdered a bunch of drug dealers, somebody's going to come looking for you, I think. Or everybody's going to abandon the town, and it might actually work. Kind of a toss-up, really. I mean, from what I understand about the criminal underworld, and I did about 2 years of research on it, there's usually something to fill the vacuum. Most likely that, the criminal underworld would evaporate for about a week, and then a bunch of other guys would just fall right in line and take over the turf. And they wouldn't care about Shelby. In fact, they'd be happy that they took out their competition. There's always another shark in the tank, as it were, in the world of organized crime. Now, it's possible if it was an isolated community that by him killing all the criminals, the place might be crime-free for a while. But Seems unlikely if it gets bad enough that there's that much organized crime, that there's an actual boss of organized crime in the town. Seems like there'd be some other guys that would be in different gangs waiting in the wings to pounce. But it's kind of hard to judge what the ending of this is. I mean, it could go a couple of different ways. It could end with, it depends on what they're going for. They may be going for a redemption arc with Jack Houston, and he may die at the end, avenging Ruby. He'd rather die and see Coyote dead and avenge Ruby because his life doesn't matter anymore without her. It could go the other way. It could Robert DeNiro sacrifices himself to save Jack, and Jack realizes, oh, I've gone too far, and sure, I've killed Coyote, but at what cost? And then maybe you get another movie with Jack Houston. John Malkovich, his character may die too, like towards the end of the second act, as motivation for the third act that causes maybe the sheriff and Shelby to team up, and then they kill Coyote together, and then the sheriff says, listen, Shelby, you got to get out of town. It's the only way I can cover this up. And, just never come back. Something like that. I'm kind of leaning towards that. That feels like an ending. At the end, they team up to kill Coyote because he's just too vicious and mean to live. It's the only way they're going to clean up. Because they hint at it in the trailer a little bit in the beginning when Robert De Niro's looking at the drug paraphernalia. Oh, another one. Oh, another death. Another death from drugs. This is bad. This is bad. What are we going to do, Sheriff? And maybe the sheriff crosses the line. But it's okay because at this point, by the end of the movie, so many people have died. It's like anybody would cross that line at that point. A lot of times in a screenplay, you end up in these extremes because it's just a way to make the story pay off. It's the only way you can push it far enough so you have some sort of payoff. It could very well be that, if they really go off the reservation, it could be something like Shelby surrenders and realizes, oh my God, what have I done? I've killed a bunch of people, and it's not going to bring back Ruby, and now I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. I kind of doubt it. That's such a downer. I think to satisfy the audience, what you're going to get is a more traditional ending where Shelby lives or at least avenges Ruby, which is an ending I like better. I want to see Jack succeed. I want to see him avenge Ruby. I want to see all the nasty drug dealers die because that's the way they'll set them up in the movie. They'll be total scumbags, and you'll be like, yeah, kill that guy. They're not really human beings in a movie. They're characters. They're like characters in a video game, which is why it always amuses me when people say, oh my God, people can't see movies or TV shows because people might imitate that. And it's just not the case. They're not real. They're not real at all. They're very phony to me a lot of times. I don't know about Robert De Niro's southern accent though. It's not so bad, but it doesn't sound right coming out of him because he almost never does that kind of thing. I guess he's trying to expand a little bit as an actor, which is good. I would have loved to have seen it earlier in his career, but he didn't look bad. He can pass kind of for Southern, but he's still too much like Robert De Niro. I appreciate him growing the mustache at least. Gives him a more cop vibe. Gives him a little bit of a different look. I think that's a real big mistake a lot of actors make. They just have this one look and they maintain it no matter what they're playing. I think it's harder to see them as different characters. And if you're playing a wildly different character, do something with your hair, your eyebrows, your mustache, something. Do something different so at least I can get into this character, even though the accent seems weird coming from him and he still looks very much like Robert De Niro. I don't know how much more they could have done something with him. Maybe they could have made him bald, but I don't think he'd want to be bald. I think if you got your hair and you're an older guy, you want to keep that. So Savage Salvation. Oh, look at all the views. It's getting a ton of views. Seems to be well received so far. And this is a good synopsis. Good kudos to whoever wrote the synopsis. I guess it was IGN. I hate it when they don't have a synopsis. So this looks good. I would say it. I would say it. Would I go to the theaters? It's a toss-up, but I would definitely say it. Yeah. All right, December 2nd. That's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Thank you for tuning in. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. We got a Hollywoke hot take and a news blast, and we'll see you tomorrow.